Hello, I'm Pat Connor with Vicoding University, training humans to train themselves. And one of the biggest things about growing yourself is mistakes. It's going to be lots of mistakes, lots of goofs, lots of everything. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is lightening up on perfection. Now, school is all about right answers, getting A's, avoiding wrong answers, shoulds, shouldn'ts, and things like that. And it sort of speaks to the fact that there is a right answer since there's one way to do things. And we all know that there's more than one way to do things. And we also know that even in that one way to do things, there's a lot of ways that it can be adapted for different people in different situations. And they're different. Okay, so shoulds, right answers, and stuff like that, we want to sort of stay away from. And that comes from school. Society says this is the way you're supposed to do it. Culture says this is the way you're supposed to do it, etc., etc. Now, one of the things we want to talk about here, though, those are good guides, so we don't want to throw them away either. We want to understand that they spend a lot of time saying, okay, we got it to work here, at least a little bit, so, pay attention. So pay attention. That's the key. Pay attention, but it doesn't mean you're stuck there. It's sort of like the artist pays attention to his mentor and copies them, follows the rules, does what he says to do and stuff like that. But his goal is to take there and to move it beyond. And that's your goal, right? To move beyond where you are and where society has taken you, where your parents have taken you, etc., etc., to take over the responsibility of growing and developing yourself. And that's our goal here. And one of the ways we have to do that and understand that is that as we do that, we're going to make a lot of mistakes. But we don't want to throw away, again, what we've already started with. So we want to do that. And there's a concept of working. It says, how do things work? And, our culture works a certain way. You have to work with that. You can't just say, it shouldn't be that way. See, now you're just as bad as the person saying, that there's a right answer or a wrong answer. It's like, you got to figure out what works. What's working in that society? What's working in that culture? What's working in that family? What's working in this physical environment, etc., etc. And there's this saying something to the nature of, seek first to understand as opposed to be understood. Because a lot of times we're going, oh man, they don't understand me, they etc., etc. And we want to stay away from that. See, there's going to be mistakes, but we're looking to get things to work. And now, one of the things is that, let me just sort of start this here, is remember we talk about getting the pictures and putting them so we first get the step number one is knowledge. So that's, so to speak, the guides, the right answers, all those kind of things we might want to think of. And then the next step is to then get those so that it works for us. Now, I sort of did some things, and I'm right-handed, and I got it so that I couldn't use my right hand. I had to use my left hand. Now, this was interesting, okay? So first of all, one of the, it's interesting. You sort of have to figure out, you look at how a right-hander does it, and you try to have to figure out how a left-hander can now do the same thing. So you're developing this mental muscle of the figure it out muscle. There's sort of, I guess, a study that says a lot of left-handed people are more creative and do better in businesses and a few other things like that. And it sort of makes sense because they've already developed some of these figure-out muscles. And also, when you go to write things, you have to write things and you don't get to see what you're writing because you're covering up what you're writing, which is interesting, which means you have to sort of imagine it in your mind. So here we are, we're developing this imagination, figuring out muscles, and things that are very creatively oriented that we're doing in everyday activities. And those then can be evolve into what we do in other things. So one of the things we want to think we're going to be talking about later is learning to develop this growth muscle in everyday activities is where we want to start, and then we can take it to bigger and bigger projects. But we first want to get it working. And again, remember, we want to stay away from right answers, mainly because right answers push into that no pain, no gain. In other words, they say, you got this machine you got to push it and force it to do things to get it done, get the right answer, so to speak, and it's going to be painful. No, we want to start thinking that we want to make it rewarding. In other words, we actually want failure to start to be something that people actually strive for, they look forward to, because they know they're going to learn something. They're going to grow. We love to learn and grow and then put it together to make something and be creative with it. So there's a whole new way of looking at it. There's no such thing as, so to speak, failure. It's like you try something and you learn something. It's exciting. Now you go, well, how can I use that to put something together? And we want to start looking at this idea of right and wrong is just a little differently, more like of, wow, this is exciting. This is how it works. This is how I could maybe even put it together so that it even works better. So right and wrong, we're real trained in. Should and shouldn't, we're real trained in. We want to sort of lighten up on those and start to gradually move into the place where we look forward to seeing how things work and get excited almost when things don't work, because now we see a new way that things work, so maybe something more is possible. I mean, it might be a key that opens up possibility. So we start getting excited about when things don't work the way we expected them to. All right, anyway, so perfectionism, lighten up. It'll really help you move forward, because again, it a lot of times freezes organizations when people are too judgmental. It freezes people when in their growth and development when people are too judgmental of them. So lighten up on this perfectionism yourself and with others, and understand it's just all getting it to work. Again, when it doesn't work the way you want it to, it's like, hey, no big deal. Hey, did you learn something? What did you see? And what can you do with that now? Okay, Pat Connor, Vicodin University, training humans to train themselves.